I mean, this may or may not be your full-time thing. I see you as a contortionist because this is, what you are online, and we only get a snippet of everyone's life on their social media. So share whatever it is you want to share.
So that's what's so interesting about social media and the persona and who you choose to portray. So that's just a snippet of my life. It is something that's really important to me and something that I've spent a lot of time creating and making a huge part of me, but I am in fashion in my day job. I do product development and design for a packaging supply company that a lot of people don't know about. So that's what I do. I work a 9 to 5 and I'm sitting all day. A few years ago, I had moved to San Francisco for work and I didn't know anybody. And someone's like, you should go to a yoga class. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And there was a Bikram studio pretty close to my apartment when I was there. And because I didn't know anybody, I just waltzed in. And I liked it. It was cool, but it wasn't like, I'm going to do this. And then I moved back to New York, and I tried to take Bikram, and it was so sceney. And everyone was so intense. And I was like, this is not for me. This is not what I want. And so I took like a power yoga class. And I really liked it. And it was interesting. And everyone was doing things that I never dreamed of doing. So I kept going back. And then everything started getting easier for me. And the back bends were really accessible. And splits were really accessible. And I started seeking out different flexibility classes and different flexibility workshops. And then I got obsessed. And then I found Mongolian Contortion and Cirque du Soleil, and I was fully intrigued. And I got a coach and got very serious about contortion and this online persona that I choose to portray. So this hobby kind of snowballed into something I didn't expect it to. It was just like, oh, I really want to grab my ankles in full wheel pose. And that's how it started. And here I am today training one arm. So
that is incredible. And it's not something that you started as a child.
No. So I study Mongolian contortion, and a lot of those girls are plucked from their homes at 6 years old, and they're trained full time, and then they're brought into America, or they're brought to Canada to do Cirque du Soleil shows. So they're starting at 6, and then by 20 they're in a show, maybe even a little earlier, and then they're done at 24. And it was interesting because I was talking to, so I trained with this person named Kevin Carpenter, who trained under this woman, Angelique, who's based in Las Vegas, who was the choreographer for the show O, Cirque du Soleil show O.
Okay.
And she had a conversation with me once that she found me so intriguing because they just assumed, because it was all they knew, that you can only be a contortionist or get to high level power tricks and so on and so forth if you were trained at, starting 6 years old. And I have no ballet background, no formal gymnastics training. I was a soccer player growing up, but that has nothing to do with
it.
It
makes me want to cry. It's so touching, which sounds insane. It might be the mom hormones, but that is because there is this perception that and especially in other countries, they start when they're really young, and it's just ingrained into them. And it's amazing that you just took a Bikram class and then whoop.
Obviously it sounds that simple, when we talk about it briefly, but it definitely evolved over time. Yes. It wasn't like, boop, I popped into Bikram. No, I was there in San Francisco for a year and a half, but I wasn't taking it seriously. Now I train 4 hours a night, 6 nights a week. I went to Bikram once, twice a week. It was not for seriousness, but it is, I hope it gives people hope, and I hope it allows people to see that it's really safe to bend your back this way, because I feel like there's a lot of taboo and there's a lot of fear around it. I have students now who come to me and they are flexible, and then they'll sort of back out and they'll be like, no, I feel like my back hurts just a little. I was like, well, it doesn't feel great all the time, but this is a safe space for your back to go through. This is a safe, range of motion, if you will, for your body to endure.
Well, and it kind of, I mean, having been in the fitness space and, you push your boundaries and stuff like this, like, it's normally your mind you have to convince. It's like your body will do whatever your mind tells it. So as soon as your mind is like, this is, then you're going to, flake out, and that's fine. But if you want to go to the next level, if you don't want to be mediocre, then you need to be in pain sometimes.
Right. And I think that people who are willing to push their bodies, they will be able to get themselves to the next level. And that's why other people will just stay, kind of plateaued. But I think also there's a plethora of different ways to approach this. Like, some students, I feel like they come to me for therapy, honestly, and and they want something to feel. I feel like, not to repeat words, but they aren't benefiting from yoga because they can't feel their body in it, because they're just doing repetition, down dog, up dog, basic warrior two. They can't feel their body doing that because they've been doing it for 5 years. It's the same shit, and there's nothing that is challenging. Whereas when they're with me, they feel a split. Like, they feel their hamstring burning, they feel their quad on fire, something is going on, and they can see qualitative result. Like, there's something to see. Like, oh, I could never have done a split, and now my crotch is on the floor. So, but also that's all they want, and they're okay with that. So I think that there are certain levels of where you want to take this training, or where you can take this training. You can always strive to be better or gain a new fitness goal, or you could be happy with, I'm comfortable in my splits. My splits feel really good consistently. Yeah. So there's certain levels of contortion.
So how are you finding your clients then? Or how are they finding you? That's probably the bigger question.
A lot of them knew me from yoga, previous yoga classes, and they saw my trajectory, and they saw what I've accomplished, and they're curious, and they want a handstand, or they want to enhance their yoga practice with deeper positions, or get a deeper back bend, or also have better technique in what they're doing, and understand what their body's doing, as opposed to just seeing a pose on social media and saying, I want to do that, and not having any idea how to get into that.
Well, you do some really just like defying gravity things. Like, you see, and what is one, the most difficult thing you've bended your body into? Hold on. I'm super bouncy, so I'm going to bounce back to something you said. And I see this because I'm looking at your page and all the different, like, the way you bend your body, and you really do speak with your body. Like, I don't know what the heck you're saying, but you feel it. Like, just from seeing the photos, or even just some of the videos you have of you going, like, rolling yourself basically in a backwards ball, or a trifold, or whatever these things are, you feel it. And I don't know about so much recently, but before, you see a lot, and with Instagram, and I'm just about, so when I say social media, I mean Instagram specifically, because that's where I'm at with this. You have a really dark, I don't want to say, it's not a dark page, but there's a dark something, and it's very real and raw. And I think that so much of social media is just this fake, light, bright stuff, and it's like, yee, everyone's so happy. But, like, that's not, it almost feels like and I was just talking with a girlfriend about this, about how sometimes when we work out, like, you just want to smash your body. Like, you just want to, instead of punching the wall, you want to just lift weights and, be aggressive. And that's how it feels in a lot of your stuff. So in some way, it almost feels refreshing to see that reality of like rawness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because I feel like that's something I was trying to build for a really long time. And then I started to have a really horrible relationship with social media. And everything frustrated me about it. So I stopped trying so hard to evolve as this artist that I was trying to become. I also feel like social media, um, it took my soul. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I have, and there are a lot of photo shoots that I've done in this dark persona that you're tapping toward that I just don't share because they were for me. And that's kind of what contortion has. I spoke to my coach about this because I really wanted to stop training. And contortion has really just become for me. And I can't share all of that with social media because it's just debilitating because there's always somebody better, or there's always somebody who doesn't train as hard that's going to achieve more. There's somebody younger, or there's somebody who's sponsored and getting paid to do this, or there's somebody who sees my idea or maybe somebody else's idea and then claims it as their own.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. But as far as this character that kind of comes out of my heart when I start bending and definitely appears when I'm doing a photo shoot is she's not happy. So I kind of say that my body is my paintbrush and I'm painting what I feel. And I definitely, on a good day, even training when I don't, because I rarely, unless like I have to, I don't video anything that I train. It's the same, it's pretty much the same exact thing every single day. It's, a 2-hour warm up and then I do my power tricks. I know you wanted to touch on that, so we'll go back to the hard stuff in a second. Then I do my power tricks and then like I end with like a few deep bends and whatever. But there'll be moments when I'm training that I actually feel something shift and something kind of, I don't want to say erupt. Erupt is too aggressive, but something comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that way too. I mean, you can take a soul cycle class and sweat your face off and something's going to come out at soul cycle. The candles burning and the teacher's screaming, the music's crazy. But there's something a little bit more, I don't want to say serene, but it's something a little bit more close to home when you are choreographing and you are taking the reins and you're in control of this slow motion thing that you are telling your body it needs to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also why contortion really did it for me, or does it for me, because you're kind of in control of every aspect of what's happening and nothing can go wrong. Like the temperature has to be right. You can't be too humid, it can't be too hot, but it can't be too cold. Everything has to feel activated. Mm-hmm. And you really have to focus. Like I have students who come to me who are trying to learn handstands, and the first thing is like they're looking everywhere and they don't understand what, like, it's, it's simple, nuanced things. It's just focus. And I think with contortion, regardless of how flexible you are or how flexible you want to be, if the focus isn't there, everything's going to go to shit.
It's true. I mean, and it's so easy to be, you're in New York City as well, and it's overstimulation, constant stimulation, always. Like, my husband and I always get into this because we're driving, and he's on his phone, and I'm like, you're not even doing anything on your phone, you're just pushing buttons because you need to be stimulated. So, like, it's just like, it's this thing of us always, instead of just being here, being present. And it is hard, and I understand how it really takes a lot to just be.
It does. And I mean, I'm in between two hospitals. So especially, last year at this time, it was constant between Mount Sinai and Metropolitan. It was just constant ambulances and constant sirens and lights, and they go right through my windows, and you just have to zone out. And that you bring up a good point too. Like, I think that's also why social media has its heyday, because everyone needs to be stimulated at all times, and it's really easy to watch a 10-second TikTok or see a beautiful picture or whatever every 5 seconds, every 3 minutes, to just kind of hone you back in on the spreadsheet you don't want to do, or the crying baby that you have to feed, so on and so forth, whatever it is. And I think that's why social media is so prominent now, because everyone needs these
distractions.
10-second distractions to just help you get through the day. And that's another reason why I just have such a toxic relationship with it, because it's like you do these avoidances, or like, it's not even procrastination, because like people do have time, especially now. You have tons of time, but you're being fed with things that you don't necessarily need or that are healthy for you. And I think it's destroying our mental health.
It is. Well, it goes back to what you were just saying, and it's so funny that we're touching on these same things, that I literally was just talking about the same conversation in the same breath about this, where you're saying your routine, you do the same thing every day, and you don't record it. And it's like, because I like to weight train, it's very similar, and even though it's different things, when you go on social media, you see the highlight reels, right? Like, you don't see the boring things that, like, you don't see the accessory work. You don't see the really boring things that nobody wants to show. You just see all the cool shit. So it's like, it goes back to, you show like the highlight reel of the cool ways you can bend your body, but not no one, but very few are willing to really put that work in of the boring, monotonous, this is just, you have to just do it and, build that muscle memory or whatever it is, put the stretches and this and that. It's, oh, well, I see this shiny thing, I want to do this.
Right, that's all they see. And they don't understand how much work, and not only physical, because I wouldn't say that the physical is the hard part. I mean, maybe at the beginning a little bit, but I had an advantage. I didn't know that I was more flexible than most.
Are you hypermobile?
No.
No?
No. Like, I don't have carrying elbows, and I don't have hyperextension, and my knees are really protruding. Like so another reason why I would never perform and why I don't perform is because my lines aren't so good. So, like, a lot of these girls who have been trained since they were little, they have ballet lines,
Oh.
Their legs hyperextend, and everything is really graceful. So mine aren't. If you look closely, like, maybe some people wouldn't notice, but to a trained eye, you can see that my lines are not stellar.
That's so interesting.
As a contortionist, as someone who is striving for perfection, I'm not happy presenting that.
Huh. Well,
I mean, this is a truth conversation, so I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that 95% is an untrained eye. So 95%, more than that. And like, I see it and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. It's so amazing. I mean, even then, now that I know I assume that you did like, I don't know, rhythmic gymnastics or like ballet, like something, but you didn't. You just started as an adult. So it makes it that much more impressive.
I started after 30 also.
That is insane. Like, that's
nothing I suggest. Like, if you're curious, start early. I mean, and then also, like, going back to, I don't perform. So, like, I don't.
Would you want to?
I did a little, and I don't love to be on stage. That's not really what I'm striving for. I really like to do intriguing photo shoots and do something different and express in that way. That's more my outlet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some friends that they just, thrive on a stage, and that's great for them.
Yeah. Well, and it just seems like you would, as good as you are, you'd be an even better teacher because you learned it so late.
I think that I did it, so I never even pictured teaching, and I love teaching.
It's
and
rewarding.
I really get it. I really understand where people are coming from, and I can relate, because the people who come to me aren't, children, ballerinas and whatnot. So they're yogi. A lot of them are yogis, or just regular people who are just curious. Some of them might want to perform. I don't know what their end goal is, but a lot of it stems from, and this is the negative part of social media, and how there's now this overlap between yoga and contortion, and they're two totally different mediums. Everyone just thinks that they could do a contortion pose in a yoga class and become the star of the yoga class. And I also don't know when it became so important to be like the star of yoga class, or to like jump into this like handstand and yoga. Like, I don't know when that happens either. And I blame social media for that, because yoga used to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It used to be really nice, and now it's like, it's no longer a sacred practice. Now it's selling clothes.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I do love teaching, and I do really relate to my students, and I feel like I can put myself in their situation and really help them, to achieve better fitness goals, or just like feel better after sitting all day. Like, give them an excuse to come home and stretch and open up, because I feel like a lot of people nowadays also, they're so guarded around their heart, and back bends really, really open up this whole area in a way that they didn't know until they started back bending.
Yeah, it is a wild thing, because there's so much. As an adult, how often are we actually doing new things, or letting ourselves be vulnerable, like physically, like forget just learning a language or something like that, but actually physically doing something different and challenging. And it's so, people don't. So I'm sure that they and you and whoever does it finds it so rewarding to just and feel good. Like it is a really just good thing.
Totally. I have an older student who never pictured herself doing a handstand, and now she's in very advanced handstand postures. And to me, that is just the most rewarding thing. And then also students who have a lot of limitations with, injuries, with older people usually comes injuries, and they're able to work around them and use what they have, to achieve great things. And I think for me, when I started, I never had any end goal. I never pictured doing what I'm doing now was going to even be possible. So the fact that I can just proves to my students also that if you strive and if you work hard, anything is really achievable.
Yeah, it is. So you have a full-time job. You do 9 to 5. But you also have students that you train, I guess, on the bookend shell of those and the weekends and stuff. Are you trying to build your student list, your client list, and get out of the full-time job, or you like it, or?
I don't know. I play with wanting to leave, corporate.
Yeah.
And then I get afraid, I'm single. What am I going to do for money? What if my client list dries up? What if another COVID happens?
Yeah.
I do like that sense of security of a full-time job. I also like routine, and I like knowing that I'm going to wake up and have something to do. But then there are days where I'm just sitting at a desk and it's just so horrible, and the things that you see and the horrible business decisions that people make and how cutthroat and disgusting things are. It's really upsetting. And, you know, the fashion industry's in the toilet right now anyway. So I don't know. I mean, I do love the fitness industry and I do love the nutrition aspects of it and, you know, helping people and coaching. But it's so saturated in New York.
I was just going to ask, so I don't know of any, are there contortion specific spaces or?
So there was this place called Circus Warehouse in Long Island City, and that's where my coach was teaching out of. And they had trapeze, Arielle, they had all the rigs for Arielle and whatnot. And then there was this place called Arielle Arts, which I think is still opened. I think they moved to like the 30s or something. And then there's a place called Brooklyn Zoo, but I think they do more parkour.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Brooklyn Zoo.
Yeah. But none of those are really Mongolian contortion specific anyway. Like there's flexibility classes and body and pole. They also have flexibility classes, the pole studio. Yeah. And that's also how I found flexibility, from flexibility classes like at pole studios.
Nice.
But I feel like if you're interested in this and you want to be serious, you have to see a full-time coach.
So what is full-time considered? How many hours a week?
So I saw a coach at least twice a week for like 4 years.
Wow. And each session's an hour or how long?
An hour.
Wow, it's amazing. I mean,
and I still see him, but he moved to Taiwan.
Oh, bummer.
During the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I was seeing his coach, who's in Las Vegas, this woman, Angelique. I went to see her for a month in Las Vegas, and I saw her 3 days a week.
Wow, it's amazing.
For 2 hours, actually. But it was a group of us.
Mm-hmm. You know, being a coach, we know how important it is to have a coach. And I think that a lot of people expect, and I say this, so I feel like I just am repeating myself, but on social media, there's just this spectrum of things to choose from. So people just say, I see this and this and this and this. And then they think that if they just try to do, but they do really need a program, like progressive steps to get to that goal. So, I mean, this is something you teach. So I will include, obviously, your handle. Do you have a website?
No.
Okay, so people just DM you and that's your, you respond. Yeah, no, but it is very important to have a coach if you are trying to reach a goal.
I think so, and I mean, it is expensive and it is a commitment, and, you know, people are wishy-washy, or the other thing, you know, not to divert on a tangent, but especially with adults, people want instant gratification. And with contortion, there's so minimal instant gratification. Like, you can get someone to like waterfall down a wall and like put themselves in a back bend. That's instant gratification. They're in a pose, but it's not, you know, a push up from the ground. And, you know, that took me 3 years of doing it twice a week with a coach lifting me. And people don't have the time. People don't have
the patience.
You know, any of it. So I think that's why a lot of people don't want to necessarily invest, because it's not just a monetary investment. It is an investment. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes it's not even necessarily this program. Sometimes it's just having someone there lifting you up into the posture and holding you there until you have to come out because you can't hold it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, a lot of contortion is like that. For the power tricks, not for flexibility.
What's considered like a power trick?
Like a hook foot push-up. So if you snap.
Do you have these on you have all these different things that you're going to list up? Because I can include little videos here so people.
Yeah. So like you snap your feet into your armpits and then you're in this little triple fold position and you push up into a handstand from the ground. That's a huge power trick, and that's like classic 101 if you were to build a Mongolian contortion act. That is going to be in the act.
Okay, what else?
any one-arm handstand is considered a power trick.
Oh, interesting.
Any croc press, so if you're laying on your head and then you press up to a handstand, that's considered a power move.
What's the hardest move that you've had to learn?
I think for me, probably one arms have been hardest for me. I mean, I spent a long time learning to push up.
Was it finding the strength to push up?
It's not just strength. It's timing.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you about your breathing.
Breathe, but it's not yoga breath. So yeah, I didn't breathe for a long time. Sometimes I find myself holding my breath in one arms and things because anything could knock you out. So I'll hold my breath for like the whole 5 seconds. But I never thought I'd be able to push up. So it's timing. It's also weight distribution. It's where you're holding pressure in your fingertips. It's how turned in or turned out your hands are. Mm-hmm. It's how much your shoulders are over your knuckles. It's how much your head is up. Because a lot of Mongolian contortion, the head is always up to prevent you from going
like over. This, you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of like Russian hand balancing, you're looking at like a triangle gaze, so you're looking in front of you, whereas in contortion, you're looking up to prevent you from going over into a wheel. It's more presentable.
I always wondered about, because, sometimes I don't know, yogis or like, depending what it is, they're looking up versus looking straight down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember somebody told me once, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, like, and that's the hard thing about teaching adults is like, well, I was told, okay, I'm not saying that whoever told you was wrong, because you could do something another way and it could be right, but I know that this way is right for how I'm teaching you. I'm not saying when you're out of this space to not do it the other way, but if you don't follow a certain, and that's the other thing about finding a coach that works for you, because there are so many different techniques or suggestions or cues, if you don't follow one thing, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as why we look up at, it's presentation, so that when you're on stage, that the head is up and it's finessed and you're excited to show what you're doing. I don't think there's anything wrong with Russian hand balancing and how they look down. that's not what I study.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see it like some of the girls I know who are like very good gymnasts, they walk with their head, like they can walk or whatever with their head, or they'll balance with their head down. And I'm like, I can't find my balance with my head down. Like, I feel like I'm going to fall. Like, it's very interesting. How funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, that's what I teach. And that's how, it's also what's really comfortable in my body. Mm-hmm. I've, taken a few handstand lessons from people who teach differently, and I don't like it. And that's why I stayed with my coach, because I do like how it makes sense in my body for me.
Got it.
So anyway, power tricks. There's another move. It's called X handstand. So it's when your hands are crossed and you're in a handstand. And my coach does really well. So these are all power moves that are usually in an act that you're going to present for contortion. That would make it a high level enough act.
When you are like, so some of your poses or photos that you have, you're in your handstand and you're holding an umbrella with your feet. How does someone put the umbrella there, or do you have the umbrella and you kick up?
Sometimes both.
Oh, okay.
There's one I remember that was a few years ago that was on the west side in the 50s that somebody put in between my feet. I have picked things up in handstand, and what's called bridge pull, so you'll be in a wheel, and then I'll put something in my feet and then press up to handstand backwards. Instead of pressing up from my feet behind me, I'll press up. So I was watching a video of yours. It's incredible how you can
press up backwards?
Yeah.
Where
you're
hold on one more time.
It's called bridge pull.
Bridge pull. Where are you finding your pull from? From your abs? Your
fingertips.
And your hips?
Fingertips.
Oh, fingertips. It's so interesting. All the balancing and everything's from your hands.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, yes, my abs are engaged. Yes, my head is up. Yes, my back is bent. My armpits are opened. My hips are relaxed. Like, my hip flexors are completely relaxed. But the majority of it is just my fingertips.
That's amazing.
But I've also done that 10,000 times. Yeah, I can't even put a number because, so going back to counting things, somebody once said that you don't have something until you've done it 1,000 times. So when I first got my push-up, I was like, okay, I want to count to 1,000. And then quarantine happened. So I counted like 4,000, just to make sure that I really have my push-up and that no one could take it away from me. So like last year I did like 4,000 or something push-ups. Crazy. But I also think it's really rewarding to count something that you do so that you know that you have it. So bridge pull, I must do like 30 or 40 a night.
Wow, it's amazing. So your night, you have your work 9 to 5 or give or take, and then you put your hours in.
Yeah, I train from like 6:30 to 10:30.
What does that look like? You have your warm-up, you have...
Yeah, so somebody once told me, they're like, your warm-up is somebody's thing. I was like, maybe. But I do the same exact thing. I use the wall a lot. I love getting feedback from the wall. So I'll do a bunch of back bends into the wall, and that takes like about an hour. And then I do my splits for about an hour. Middle, and then middle with back bend, and then frog with back bend, and then I do over splits. And then I finally feel ready to start doing handstands. So lately, for about, I guess, almost 2 years, maybe a little less, I do all my push-ups to start, because that's what makes me feel most engaged, most active, and it's a lot of flexibility too, because you have to go into a triple fold. So I'll do all my push-ups, and then I started doing my push-ups to train a hook foot one arm. So I'll leave one of the feet hooked, and I'll do the push-up to the one arm. Then I'll do all my croc push-ups, so I have all my power tricks out of the way, so I feel, I don't feel as stressed out, if you will, because I know that all my power is done. So if I feel like I'm getting tired, a lot of the other things, it's just flexibility, so I know I could get through. So then I do what's called needle, which is like a stand on one leg and pull the leg up. I do those. And then I do some more one arms, and then I train this thing called box, which is when you back bend and you grab onto your knees and try and bring your head through your legs.
Yes. I think I saw a video of you training that.
Yeah.
Like you learning, and your coach was holding you.
Yeah.
And holding you, and you could see, like, I was trying to watch your breathing, because I'm very curious about breath, because I think it's important.
Breathing. Okay, sorry, I diverted. So breathing. So breathe.
You're as bouncy as I am.
Yeah, so breathe. I took yoga teacher training, and I've taken a bunch of meditation classes and courses. It's not like, square breath, or ujjayi. There's none of that. And none of the breath is very rigid or forced. A lot of it, especially like when you're laying on your chest in, you're breathing through, one of those coffee straws, very slow, shallow sips of air. Especially in handstand, in two-handed handstand, I breathe completely normal. Like I can have a full conversation. But at the beginning, it was just, very controlled, small breath. Nothing is very deep. I breathe through my nose. I don't have, medical or, definitive ways of breathing. Like I'm not a medical doctor. I don't, none of this is proven, but this is what works
for you. Yeah.
So I think there are definitely other ways to do that. But definitely breathe. Definitely don't hold your breath. And it's so easy to hold breath. And usually inhale will bring you up. Exhale brings you down. So if you're trying to get into a bridge pull and try and get your feet up, you would inhale the feet up. You also inhale the one arm up. So you do a deep exhale before you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then it's slow inhale to bring the one arm up.
Interesting.
Or it's slow inhale to bring the feet up. Slow inhale from being on croc to push up to handstand.
Okay. Interesting. Supplements, food, this kind of stuff.
So
because you're limber. So
Yeah.
being flexible, being limber, there's this, I mean, I think that there's so many schools of thought to this, right? So, there's all these things now, collagen, turmeric, fish oil, all these things. If you're getting everything you need in your food, then fine. But
so I'm not vegan. I don't want to talk bad about any diet, but I do think that there's something really important about animal products and protein, and I don't think it could be supplemented fully with, beans or protein powders.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that, whether it be chicken or whatever, I think it's really important for a lot of these power moves. And not that if you're vegan, you're not going to be able to push up, because I'm sure that there are vegans who can. But for me, I think that this is what's very important. I'm not a firm believer in any supplement or any pill or extra thing to put in your body. I think that it can all be found from water and basic food. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to put any of those things in my body. Not to say that it's wrong, but I'm just a firm believer in not doing any of that. Because I feel like once you start, you have to take something else to counteract this or something to enhance that. And it's just a never-ending thing. And now you're taking 30 pills.
Yeah.
I mean, if, you're getting a smoothie and you want to have them add some protein powder, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But, if you eat a piece of grilled chicken or you eat a piece of fish, or I eat a lot of cottage cheese because I feel like that's just a ton of protein. Mm-hmm. I feel like you don't need anything else. You're gonna get through, but if your body will tell you what it needs. I don't believe in any sort of diets. I think you need to listen to what works for you. I mean, I also eat basically the same thing every day, which a lot of people won't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not torturing myself by doing that. That's a choice, mm-hmm. and it works for me. But I think that there's balance too, and I feel like you need to listen to what your body is telling you, because it will tell you. And if power moves feel just way too hard and you're just not eating the right things, change it up. Yeah. See what works. See how your body feels after you eat citrus, and if you feel like your teeth are going to fall out from the acid, then don't eat that anymore. You know what I mean? It's very simple. Everyone's looking for the answer. Correct. Everyone's, can I just buy that? No, you can't. Correct. You cannot just buy these things. I don't know, some people are like, ew, sugar drinks, and I drink a Powerade a night, so I don't know. I mean, other people are like, I can't believe she drinks that, but I do. So
it works for you. Why not?
Exactly. So I don't think that they're you also can't follow what somebody else does.
Correct.
I mean, Are you drinking enough water? Start there.
You're like, that's what I got for you. Drink some water.
Yeah, drink water and, listen to what is going to fuel you effectively.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like some people are very anti bars and stuff, but I eat them.
Yeah.
Like protein bars and stuff. I think that they're fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But supplements, that whole environment, I'm just, no.
You stay out of it.
Yeah, stay out of it. I have no recommendations. I have no knowledge. I don't really want to learn. I feel like also if things aren't broken, there's no need to start fixing.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, why am I going to take fish oil?
Well, I think that with going back to what you said about people just want to buy it, where there's this thing that it's like this saying, and I think it's so true where, why did it just was in my mouth and I just slipped it. Like energy makes energy.
Yeah.
But like your body the more you move it, the better off it is, right? So when people are not moving their bodies, they're like, this is what I was going to say. When you rest, you rust. So when people are not moving, they're like, why am I sore? Why does this hurt? Why does that? Well, get moving and you'll see that your body naturally creates a lot of these things that you need.
Right. Agree 100%. And that's the other thing with flexibility and people, their comments are, they're sore. They're very sore and they're almost afraid. It's, it's kind of like a reward. I don't get sore at all anymore. Like, I don't remember the last time I got sore. I tried something new.
Yeah.
When you're doing something so routinely, like your body gets used to it. Like certain things are just second nature for me now.
It's great.
Yeah. So be willing to let these sore moments become your second nature.
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. I agree with that. With your training, okay, so you train you do your power moves, you do your stretching. Are you supplementing with any weight training or you only are doing this routine nightly? Do you miss nights? What does your recovery look like? That stuff.
So I usually take one full day off and don't do any sort of contortion at all. At least once a week. Because I feel like mentally it's really exhausting as well. And so it's nice to not think about it for one night at all. A lot of people actually ask me about cross training and they're like, you should take pole class or do something else or, go to the gym or I don't have a desire to anymore. I walk. Not for sport. It's not like I'm not part of a walking team or something, but I feel like I am athletic. I am active. I don't need further exercise. I have been actually thinking about diversifying my portfolio of movement, and I've been really curious about surfing.
Oh.
Very curious about it.
Well, it's the season.
Right. So I think that I will look into doing something like that. But no, I don't weight train. Sometimes my coach is like, you should, use your TheraBand and, this. And I'm like, if he watches this, he's going to be very mad. But so there's another thing, you can't replicate movement.
Right.
If you want a handstand, you can't just lift a TheraBand. You need to get on your hands and do it. You don't need to go do the elliptical for 20 and then do arms for 15. You don't. You need to get your hands on the floor and fall. Learn how to fall safe, and fall and do the thing. I'm sorry, leg day doesn't apply for split. It doesn't. I feel there's nothing wrong with lifting, and I think that if you're into lifting, lift. And I think that if you're into lifting and you want to also learn a handstand, then you have your 3 days a week lifting, 2 days a week handstanding.
Yeah.
But I don't think that if you want to be a Mongolian contortionist, that you also need the weight training.
No, those are, I mean, I'm sure there are things that you could do that would help. Like
cross train and hands or whatever.
Make it easier to push out of the push up, or make it easier, but that's a whole thing in itself. Like if you're not there, you're doing this, then just do this.
Right, like then just hold a plank.
Yeah.
Like so if it has to be a virtual lesson and I can hold you upside down, you know, do a plank with your head up, push your shoulders all the way out, and walk one hand out to the right, one hand out to the left, and in and out. And you know, there's ways to semi-replicate it, but you still, if you're in a plank, you don't feel what it feels like to be on your hands.
Right. Absolutely.
Nothing can replicate that feeling.
Right. What? Okay, so your recovery, or you're not doing. You're just taking a day off, a rest day.
Yeah.
You're like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. But okay, so I mean, I know people who roll out and things. I don't.
No. Okay.
I don't. I mean, I don't really hurt.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know what hurts? When I'm sitting in my desk chair.
Right? When I'm just stuck in this sit position, that sucks and that hurts.
Or sometimes if I've, like, really overstretched my splits, then my hip will hurt.
Did you ever get stuck in a position? That's a valid question.
I feel like I have been. For sure. Like, I remember I've been, like, stuck in a one arm, which is, like, not a bad problem to have at all. But, like, sometimes if you don't overthink so this ties back to the mind thing, which we were supposed to talk about, but I guess we went on to it. If you don't overthink some of these postures, they come.
Yeah.
A lot. And then so like I had this one thing where I was able to be in a handstand and snap my foot into my armpit, you know, and hold the handstand or whatever. And I never trained it, never tried it, and then somebody asked me to do it and I did it and it just came. And it was shocking. And then I was able to like do it for like a month, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And I couldn't figure out why. Like my body was still capable of doing it. Like I didn't lose flexibility or strength. There's no mechanical reason why I shouldn't have been able to do it other than my mind.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the mind is a big factor in any of this. And, you know, forcing yourself to get into a position or fall out of a position or get stuck in a position. A lot of it is mind. Yeah. So I remember like, I just didn't think I'd be able to like throw a one arm, and I did it. And I was like, oh shit, I like can't get out. When like literally you just put your left hand back down on the floor and like you're just in a regular handstand, you can obviously fall out of that. So yeah, I think a lot of it is mind and shock factor. Like if you just don't expect, sometimes things will just fall into place. Sometimes your body knows what it needs to do.
What is there when you're stretching, or when you stretch your clients, or when you talk about this stuff? Is there a stretching? Because you know how exactly what we were saying about people say, "Oh, well, it hurts. It hurts." What is too much, right? Like if you can endure the pain of like going into your splits or, you know, your arms or whatever, what is there too much, or is it just suck and breathe through the pain?
No, there's always too much. I mean, you know, people get hurt, of course. So for me, I know, like, if something feels fiery, burning, that's too much, and you back out. If I'm stretching someone, I can feel their resistance.
Right.
Some people you can just push. Like, if you're pushing their heel to their butt while they're in a split, you can feel their hamstring tighten up, and you can't push it all the way down. So that's as far as stretching someone else, you could just feel it. Or like if you're pulling somebody back into a back bend, you can feel a fear lock up, but then you can also like once they're breathing, you can also feel the resistance of when you can't pull them anymore. To prevent them from getting hurt. As far as yourself, you can definitely, I always suggest that you go to the point where it's just teetering on the pain and stay. A lot of people, they like to pulse. I don't believe in that.
I was just going to ask you, do you have a belief in active or passive stretching?
Passive. But then there's certain times where it needs to be active for other things. But if you're just stretching and trying to get deeper into something, I think it needs to be passive, soothing, calming, relaxing, as opposed to the pulsing or the in and out. Like, I just think that that's toxic for the body. It's confusing. Like, am I in? Am I out? What am I doing? Like, stay, breathe. Don't stay where you're burning and everything is dying and you see red. Don't stay there.
You see stars and you're gonna black out.
Yeah, no, don't stay in that spot, but like come out of it a little bit where it's like, this isn't ideal, but I'm alright.
Bearable.
Yeah, I'm alright. I have blocks under my hands. My hamstring isn't gonna fall off my glute. Like, I'm alright, but this is not ideal. That's how you get better.
What else? Anything else you want to share?
I think that if you're curious, try. Anything. It doesn't have to be contortion. Doesn't have to be handstands, but try. And it's never too late. I think you can always get better at something.
Definitely. What's your handle here, please?
My fear is my strength.
It's true. It's very true. Okay, so I'll include a link of that. And anything else you want to share? Nothing? Something?
Well, thank you so much.